2120. C'est l'année selon laquelle, le dernier rapport du Forum économique mondial de Davos, où la parité sera enfin atteinte dans le monde. Un siècle, 100 ans, 36 500 jours nous séparent de la parité dans le monde. Si on ne fait rien, si on ne trouve pas des leviers d'accélération, ni vous, ni moi, ni vous les jeunes, nous serons les témoins d'un monde juste. Alors, la parité n'attend pas.
Prenez le pouvoir, faites les choses, n'ayez pas peur effectivement, de toutes les façons dans le pire vous allez rater, vous allez recommencer, c'est pas grave, les hommes ratent aussi, sauf que pour eux c'est peut-être moins grave. Donc franchement, vous êtes puissante, allez-y.
Well, hi everyone, and thank you for joining our live GFD live about future of work. I'm delighted to welcome you on our event today, May 25th, and it's 6 p.m. CET time. We have great guests today to talk about the future of work, and there are big changes coming to organization and the way we will work. For the past few months, we have all try to maintain composure in the face of uncertainty. So how will your job change in the future? That's the question that we're going to be asking our guests tonight, and try to figure it out for the next future as we will all be coming out of the lockdown. Success in the new working era will be defined by those who can embrace uncertainty, turn disruption into opportunity, and elevate the dialogue to the suite to ensure clear and collective action. So with no further ado, I would like to invite on stage with me Fabienne Arata, who is the General Director of LinkedIn France, Eric Lallier, who is General Manager of Lenovo France, Muriel Le Goff-Rivron, who is the Head of Customer Success EMEA Southwest for Adobe, and Natalia Roldan, Total Digital Factory Task Force Corporate Strategy. Hi everyone, and you all have in common to be supporter and partner of the GFD. For those of you for many years, and we have been working with you all for the last 8 years. This discussion is going to be hosted by Nathalie Novik. She's the Chief Community Officer of Startup Boost. And she's going to be talking about, first of all, about herself and what she does for the community of Startup Boost in Europe. I'd like for you to do that, Nathalie, and then introduce the panel. And then I will obviously be delighted to talk with you all. So let's start this discussion.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Delphine, for that lovely introduction. My name is Natalie Novik. I'm the Chief Community Officer of Startup Boost, which is a global pre-accelerator for early stage startups. And it is a zero equity, zero fee program that is supported by the community, all by volunteers, to help founders, especially those that are under-networked or traditionally underrepresented, learn and to build their connections, their network, and to get the resources they need to achieve investment, revenue, or to join an accelerator program. And it's a global platform. We're based in Los Angeles, but we're working all across the world, and we have founders in every continent. So it's my pleasure to moderate this wonderful panel really a great list of speakers that are on. And I would like to introduce them all to you. First, if Fabienne Arata, who's the country manager of France for LinkedIn, Eric Lallier, the president and general director of Lenovo France, Muriel Legoff Riveron, the head of customer success for EMEA Southwest at Adobe, and Natalia Rodan, the Digital Factory Task Force of Corporate Strategy at Total. So welcome and thank you all for joining us. And of course, Delphine, founder and CEO of the Bureau at JFD, president of Gen France, is also going to be taking part in this conversation today. So first, it's really my pleasure to kick off this conversation. And we're tackling a really huge topic here and a lot of big questions involved. And I'm looking forward at diving in and getting started. But to everyone in the audience today, please know that you can leave a question for our panelists, and please get your questions in. We have a great list of speakers here that would love to answer your questions. And so there's time for those, so please put them in. But to begin, I have an icebreaker question for everyone, and it's on the impact of COVID-19, and everyone's workplace has been affected in different ways. Many of us, all of us are now working from home, everyone's lovely homes in the background. Our work lives and home lives are crashing together. But since the start of the pandemic for you, can you walk me through what were some of the biggest changes that have taken place for you and your organization, and how you've sought to react to the future of work being accelerated due to COVID-19? Delphine, maybe you want to kick this one off, please.
Yes, well, I will be quick to let everyone else talk. I think, you know, the COVID-19 has shown to the world that what has been happening for women, if I may start with that, is that we continue to do more at home, and so we're gonna have. And this is what we have to fight for, rather than a promising world after the pandemic. There is every reason to believe that for women, the post-lockdown era is likely to be a return to the old world. So I think what we've been showing is that we need to use digital tools to be able to carry on working, but we need to be able to carry on working in a very equal manner with our counterparts. So I think it's important. The other thing that has been showing in terms of the COVID and what has been happening, which is thanks to social networks and thanks to LinkedIn and all the social networks that has been helping us to carry on being socially linked. And I think, you know, it's important. It was a distance era. It wasn't a social stop. And thanks to all the social media that has been enabling us to carry on working and carry on talking. The other thing that I would like to finish off is that in France, and I don't have other numbers for Europe, but I think it's important, it's interesting as a starting point, 8 million jobs are now compatible with telework in the private sector. So a lot of company has been going through this COVID-19 crisis relatively smoothly because they were ready and culturally fit for working from home, while a lot of other company wasn't ready. And I think there has been an acceleration of the digital transformation. We ask people to be ready of being digital in 2 months. That transformation will have normally taken about 2 years. So it was fast. It was, and so that's another point I think that we learned from the COVID. But I let the other people have their point of view.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. And as Delphine mentioned, LinkedIn, it's a great opportunity for you, Fabienne, to come in and tell us a little bit about your experience over the last couple of weeks with your organization and how the future as work has really been accelerated from your perspective.
Thank you, Natalie, and thank you, Delphine, for the invitation. I'm very pleased to be with you and share with you on this topic of future of work. I'd like to share two perspectives. One which is from LinkedIn Inside, and the other one regarding the behaviors and the pattern that we could see from a member's perspective, and what we could see that the professionals are doing on the platform. Regarding LinkedIn, actually, we were lucky enough to be able to shift all our operations and activity in France 10 days prior to the formal announcement of the confinement. And we did that because we were on alert based on what our colleagues and friends were experiencing in Asia Pacific and as well in Italy. And based on this experience, we choose to close the office 10 days prior to our customers and our members so that we could be ready to sustain them and be in position to be really supportive. We did that, and that may be a topic that we could share later on during this conversation, but we did that because everything that we do during this crisis, from the very beginning to the potential back to work plan that we are currently designing, is very tied to our cultures and value, and the decision framework that we are using and which guides our decision and actions is very connected to our cultures and values, putting employees first and members first. That gives some clarities, and that gives what I would call a kind of red straw to follow on the decisions that are made, and to give clarity to the teams to better understand the way we make decisions and the way we take actions. From a member's perspective and a professional perspective, what we saw on the platform was exactly what Delphine mentioned, which was a significant increase of the engagement and the numbers of conversations. Conversation increased by 55% week over week. 60% of new content creation on the platform, but moreover, it seems that the professionals took their skills development within their hands and choose to use this time of confinement to train themselves and to learn new skills. We saw an increase of 300% of new learners joining the learning group communities and learning new skills. From a hiring and job search perspective, what is interesting to see, also it's not a good news from a gender diversity perspective, is that prior to the COVID situation, we already had a gap between the number of applications that women were used to do compared to men. This gap is increasing during the crisis, and it seems that women are applying less to jobs that are still available compared to men. That is something that it is important to watch, and as the GFD could act on that, so that we make sure that women are still applying as fast as possible and as equal as the men.
Okay, so I just want to stop you right there, Fabienne. That's really a really incredible statistic, which we'll have a chance to get into a little bit more deeply later. But I want to give everyone else the opportunity to share a little bit about their experience before we get too deep into the numbers. So thank you. Natalia, can you tell us a little bit about your experience? I know you've been directly involved with hiring, and especially right now remotely during COVID. Can you talk a little bit about how that's been going for you?
Yeah, so Total announced the creation of its digital factory at the end of 2019 with the intention to start its digital factory in early 2020. So we were really at the starting block of this big journey, creating a digital entity when COVID happened. So, you know, we had to really figure everything out. It's not like companies that have had a chance to be together and the teams have gotten to know each other. That was not our case. We were really at the very early starting blocks. We would actually joke and say, guys, it doesn't get any more digital native than this. We're all working from home, doing a startup. That's pretty different. So we didn't expect that, but we made them up. And I think that's been something that we've all had to do. In our particular context, we were able to capitalize on our strengths, which is how we're organized. We're an agile organization. We're guided by the Scrum methodology. That includes a lot of daily rituals. It means we have weekly town hall meetings. It means we do pulse checks with employees. So all of that discipline, that framework, it really helped us have a sense of stability and navigate through this. And then most importantly, we onboarded over 60 talents during this time to get them to be able to start up our activities. And going back to what was mentioned earlier, I think we were, surprised with the ability to start up and to begin to deliver despite the context in a positive way. So it's overall been a challenge, yes, but it's also been an opportunity to be innovative and to try different tools and to capitalize on our strengths, which is what we've done. So.
Yeah, so that's really interesting because Total is an enormous company, but it still has this startup spirit in what you're doing with digital there, and I think that's
we're
really
part of a big group, but we're actually a startup. So I think it's that context, but it's been so helpful to have the umbrella and the coverage of our group, a really excellent partnership as well. We've got really great teams. So when you have all of those things, starting up, I think is good. We have the right ingredients. Yeah.
Wonderful. And Eric and Muriel, both of your companies really help enable the move to working from home and having the infrastructure for people to be able to work remotely. Muriel, maybe you want to start and talk a little bit about how Adobe has kind of had to accelerate the future of work in the last couple of weeks because of the COVID-19.
Yeah, thanks. First of all, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to take part of that panel and share my experience around this unprecedented situation. So luckily, I've been working from home for the past 20 years. What has really changed for me personally is that I'm extensively working from home since I'm at home. I've been at home for the past more than 2 months, which is very new for me. Mm-hmm. And what I'd like to share is that for me, one size does not fit all. My situation is very different from many other people. It mm-hmm. depends on your age, whether you are single, whether you have family, young kids or not. So I can share about my situation. Since I've been working from home for the past 20 years, I'm very well equipped. I have a dedicated office to work from home, and I have young adults who are very autonomous and independent. They are even taking care of me. Sometimes they are coming and popping up with cakes or apple pie or coffee, which is very good. The challenge I'm personally facing is that I'm not moving. I'm stuck in my office in meetings back to back. Mm-hmm. And the way I mitigated that is that I took the control of my agenda, put in place some placeholders for breaks and lunch with my family. And the good thing about it as well is that I'm saving 2 hours of commute time, which I'm reinvesting in time with my family, time to work, of course, and time to do some gym, because being stuck on your chair for several hours can be painful. So I think it was a great opportunity for me to go back to sport that I stopped, I think, 15 years ago. So a great opportunity for me. Now, with regards to Adobe and my team, I think it was a big change for the people in my team, some of them who were used to go to the office. And it was more around making sure that our people were feeling good, because when you have a family with young kids and both parents are working, it can be a challenge to manage both work and life. So my managers took some time to listen to our people, to check on how we could support them, to prevent them from having stress from managing the family and both the work. So Adobe internally proposed some alternatives and solutions to ensure that we were comfortable in our office at home. So we had some funding from Adobe to buy chairs, to buy screens, and to buy keyboards and things like that.
so which was very good. And so we spent as managers a lot of time asking questions to our people, listening and ensuring about their well-being. And then with regards to the business of Adobe, so creativity is part of our DNA. Working from home, people are used to work alone now. And I'm a strong believer of collective intelligence. And I think that whenever people have face-to-face meetings, we can be really creative, which we are kind of losing now, even though we have great tools with Teams, Blue Jeans, and I learn about Livestorm now. But I really think that working face-to-face can bring more creativity. So our customers also are very demanding. As you can imagine, they got back to us since we are proposing some creative solutions such as Premiere, Photoshop. So we spent some time with them to help them working from home with those solutions. And we have also digital experience solutions. And for retailers, for example, whose shops are closing, they are putting all of their business on digital. We spent a lot of time with our customers to ensure they were appropriately using our solutions.
Okay. Let's move to Eric very quickly, and then we can circle back around, because I think it's very interesting how you've also kind of had to face this point of not only adapting the organization, but also very strongly to customer demands. And I imagine, Eric, that's something that you at Lenovo have also been responding to as well.
We had to, yes. So good afternoon, everybody. And thanks you very much for the invitation. I'm just realizing that I'm the only man among the participants. Thank you very much. I'm even more flattered.
Well, so, feel good about it.
Many companies, and like you said, Muriel, so we have to adapt ourselves. I think adaptation will be one of the key words we will keep in mind, after this crisis. And like many companies, we had to switch from one day to another as a working from home situation for all the employees. So in Lenovo France, I don't know how many you are in your company. Total you are thousands. But Lenovo, we are a group of 250 people. And it was possible first because everybody was equipped. So you were able to switch from working from the office to working from home because it was already in the, let's say, way of doing our job commonly in Lenovo, like in many companies. But the working from home was not a standard. So from one day to another, adaptation was really impressing me because everybody had to switch and be connected like they were the day before. In terms of management, I took care a lot, and with all the managers as well, it can be perceived as micromanagement because we have installed a daily call with all the managers and a bi-daily call with all the employees, but it was more not to micromanage them, even if it's part of the game, but it was also to keep the link, stay close to the people, and that was the first 3-4 weeks to say, okay, let's be connected as much as we can, to stay together, to get news, to listen from the management. It was really important, and also to give some direction in terms of how we are going to work, how we are going to stay performant, how we are going to stay efficient. I heard in your speech as well that some of you did some trainings. We took the opportunity to, let's put it like this, occupy the people, but to build some specific training and to manage this crisis, or to go through this crisis to specific training and make sure that after the crisis, because there will be after the crisis, everybody has taken the opportunity to follow trainings that nobody is following on a current statement of job. And the third phase is, meanwhile, we were also equipping the people with additional displays, and that's, let's say, convenient for Lenovo because, as you know, we build computer and accessories, so it was a must to do. But now we need to take a step back, look at the situation. What have we learned during these 2 months, and what's next? For me, what we have learned is adaptation was key. So we were really ready to adapt ourselves, and that will be one of the criteria to recruit the people tomorrow. Are you capable to transform yourself in 24 hours, like we had to do? Okay, we were forced to do that, but at the end, we were successful. Oh, sorry. So if you are capable to do that, then the second learning was we were turned to all the internal stuff. So how to keep this organization to stay connected to our customers, and how we are going to continue to be in touch and cover our customers and partners working from home. And here, honestly, we haven't found the solution. So that is telling me that in terms of learning, and I see some companies moving into this direction to say, okay, tomorrow everybody will work from home. That will be the standard. For us, I think it cannot be. It will be a combination between both, working from home for being convenient, staying connected all the time, let's put it like this, and also coming back to the office, maybe not like it was before at 90 or 100% of the time, but probably at 50% of the time, and making sure we will be able to visit customers and partners, because our job is to sell. And with this learning, working from home all the time, it was good to stay in touch with all the customers we knew, but it's very tough to acquire new customers. Even if we are digitally equipped, if we have all the tools, making webinars, making specific calls with the customers digitally, it's not enough. And I think the learning for me tomorrow will be a better combination of both, keeping the offices, maybe different offices, and surely different offices, maybe some savings are ahead, and combining this with a working from home solution to make sure that we will be more efficient and we will cover more customers. I don't want to be too long.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because you're seeing all around the globe companies like Facebook and Twitter have kind of been shifting towards this remote work, but then also seeing, in companies like yours that it is really challenging doing everything entirely remote. And it's great to be able to respond to customer needs, but having the face-to-face in-office interaction still remains really important.
To jump off of what Eric was saying, I think it's so true. And what was being said earlier, one size doesn't fit all. Yeah. And I think in that we're in different places in our cultural journey. And when you cite companies like Twitter and Facebook, they've been around for 10, 15 years. So they have a really strong cultural foundation to rely on. But then you have to think about individual teams and how long have they been together, how they had a chance to get to know each other, to be able to set up how they will work remotely. And I think that's really, really important, because the view from the top of the mountain versus the bottom of the mountain is not the same. And so we can't compare apples to apples if we're not in the same situation. So I do think we need to adapt ourselves. That is really cannot be more true. But there are a lot of positive things we've taken away from it. I think for us, we've noticed that rather than the typical companies that would have presence tests and the people who stay in the office longest, those must be the ones that are performing the best. That's gone. Nobody's there. We have to rely on mutual trust. But you know what's most important? We're relying on deliverables. We're focusing on output. And that's really what performance should be on. So I think that's something that I hope will be a takeaway that we will take from this, as well as the relationship of trust that we've needed to create between managers and their employees. The clear communication that's required to make this work during remote working. All of those are really good takeaways that I hope we'll be able to keep in the next phase.
Yeah, you said a very important word, which is trust. And you can switch into this, let's say, change of way of doing your work if you trust your employees. If not, you are in trouble, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is what is showing. And I think, in a lot of American company, and I used to work for IBM for 15 years before coming back in France, and I used to work in London for 15 years, and the working from home culture was very much business as usual. Actually, it was the opposite. If you were at work without physical meeting, people was wondering, what are you doing here? You've been wasting 2 hours in your car. So I think it's a very much for a lot of American Anglo-Saxon company, and I'm sure Fabienne will agree, Muriel will agree, and Natalia, I think, Total is a French company, but with a very international culture, and obviously Lenovo, which is used to be part of the family of IBM, which I know very well, and thank you so much, Eric, for being here. And you're the only man, but it's a great honor, Take it as a positive thing. And I think, yes, this is the future of work will be about trust, but the trust the other and both sides, that it's not again, it's the delivery of the success that matters. It's not how you achieve it. It's you have one objective, and at the end, if you have one objective and you achieve it, then that's fine. If you wanted to work from your bathroom, whatever. So I think that's what has been showing. But I think there were some numbers that you wanted to go on, Natalia.
Yeah, and I think that's a really a good point in that, you've worked in a number of different organizations and American companies, British companies, and also French companies. So do you think we're going to see a convergence that's going towards a more openness and more outcomes oriented culture rather than a more kind of top down or everyone in the office kind of scenario? How do you think that's going to change the corporate cultures? Is it going to kind of converge to this outcomes that Natalia's suggesting? How do you think that will change in your organizations? Muriel, maybe you want to start. You've been working from home for a long time, even before COVID.
Yeah, and even beyond working from home, I've been working from anywhere, I would say. I've been working from customers, from coffee, from restaurant, from the airport. So it's not just working from home. Working in an American company, we are already in this trusted relationship model where we are not looking at when the person arrives in the office and leaves the office. It's more around impact and outcome. And we are building a trusted relationship. We are meeting face-to-face or not on a regular basis to see the progress that is being made on future outcome and agreed outcome at the beginning of the year. That we can revisit, of course, throughout the year, but it's really putting in place the right processes in terms of performance review and setting also the right expectations from the beginning with your employees, using a smart approach, specific, measurable, achievable, result-oriented, and timely, so that you can have a discussion based on facts and data with your employees and be in a position to support them and reprioritize if needed. This is the way we are managing trust within our organization. And of course, as mentioned, having a performance review model in place is critical to that. At Adobe, it's based on setting expectations, as mentioned, talking about the development of the employees, and as well feedback. Even when I was working at Microsoft, since I spent 25 years there, it's very similar to Adobe. It's about feedback. We tend to say that feedback is a gift. So this is a critical tool used to develop.
Which is a really interesting factor now that Fabienne's mentioning that a lot of employees are now using this time from working from home to upskill their own skills and to continue learning from home, maybe if they're not getting that within their organization. Fabienne, do you want to talk a little bit about how employees and workers are using the learning tools, and what are some of the things that they're searching for with the platform to be learning in this new future of work?
Can you hear me? Okay. Yes, definitely they use this time to improve their skills. But coming back to the previous point, I think that this situation has actually amplified and the need to accelerate the transformation, and especially for the small and medium companies. The global ones, the biggest one, were already used, as you mentioned, to work from home and to be very agile. The smaller ones and the more domestic ones, that was pretty new. And what we saw on LinkedIn is that 40% of the group messaging functionalities that could be used to keep in touch, be in touch with your customers or with your employees were actually used by companies that are below 200 employees, which is significant and which demonstrate that there is this willingness to transform themselves and to accelerate the digital process. That is from a company perspective. As it was mentioned earlier as well, I definitely believe that companies are going to continue to hire on soft skills that are related to what I would call growth mindset, the ability to learn, the willingness to learn, the willingness to, and the ability to manage the uncertainty and the new normal. That is that are the patterns that we can see on the platform.
So let's talk a little bit about hiring. I think this is a really profound point, because a number of companies had to furlough workers or fire workers, and now you have such a huge workforce that is looking for jobs. How do you distinguish yourself as a candidate in this remote first work culture? How, from the management and a hiring manager's perspective, how do you evaluate candidates on those soft skills? Like, how can you stand out as a potential candidate if you can't meet face to face and build that trust and a personal connection? What are some of the tips and techniques that that you can use to really stand out? And how do you know from as a manager that this candidate seems to be a great one, a great fit for this new remote work culture? Natalia, do you want to start? Because you've been through this process extensively just recently.
No, it's so true. I think, you know, you might, in the previous hiring process, you would have focused on the technical skills. And if the person had the technical skills, that was what mattered, and everything else we could kind of look past. And now we're confronted with the real reality. If the cultural fit isn't there, if the person can't work collaboratively, if the person can't learn quickly and adapt, those are such fundamental skills. So now I think there's going to be a greater shift to really finding that cultural fit and making sure that you can get the person that has a match with your organization, most importantly, also with the team. So I think what was mentioned earlier is so true. Show that if you're a candidate, show that you're a fast learner and that you're adaptable. That is going to be one of the two biggest competencies or skill sets that you can market in the future, because it's not what you know today might not be at all what we need for tomorrow. So it's our ability to learn. The second thing is, I think, going back to what you were saying about the furloughing and the relationship between employee and employer, that's shifting so much as well. Like, interviews are a two-way process. And so it's really important that as companies, we recognize that we have to have a really strong employee value proposition. We need to go back to a relationship where it can be built on transparency and trust. Specifically in these very unstable times, people don't know sometimes whether their job is secure. Some people don't know, or maybe they do have a job that's secure, but they don't know if it's going to remain. And so the ability to have transparency, I think people don't expect you to paint them a perfect picture, but they just want to know where they stand. And when they're looking for a future employer, they're going to look for a more stable relationship in that way. Do I trust you? Are you going to be transparent? Are you looking out for my best interest? Will my skills be developed? So it's really important to have a strong employee value proposition. Being able to grow and develop your skill set, as was mentioned earlier, is crucial. Being able to make an impact, add value. Essentially, that's what people want. And I think as employers, we have to make sure that we offer that.
Yeah, Delphine, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I think, you know, the other skill that is important and that perhaps we need as manager, as leader to learn to youngers is to listen. To listen to clients, to listen to the world, to listen to what Mother Earth has been telling us for 2 months, to listen to what is being said, because I think it's very easy to believe that you know everything, and me as a founder, as a CEO, I very often put myself into question. You know, did I listen enough? This person is telling me this, you know, a client is telling me something, and I take very much everything into consideration. I think the decision process has to be as long as possible, but you know, asking questions, making sure you listen to everything that is into your environment. The other thing that I learned is earn trust, then sell. And social networks like LinkedIn help us to earn trust because you have skills and experience that you can share to the world. And I think that's important. Adobe help us to be creative, and Lenovo help us to be able to do all of this on a laptop. And Natalia mentioned something very important here, and I think within the digital startup, the digital factory of Total, it's learn to learn. There is no one who is expert today, nobody, and so you need to learn constantly, and you need to not be afraid of not being on the top of everything, but having this capability of bringing the right skills to help you to achieve what you want to come next.
Yeah, those are all great points. Muriel and Eric, would you like to respond to those points that Delphine made?
Muriel, after you.
No, I'll let you go first, Eric.
Oh, it's no, from a recruitment point of view, I think there are, of course, two sides. So it's always difficult to recruit, and it will remain difficult, I think. But looking at this, from an employer point of view, at least in Lenovo, we will keep the rules that we were applying before in terms of diversity first. So to make sure that before choosing somebody, we have a candidate from a male candidate and a female candidate, let's put it like this. And all the diversity criteria that we are applying to us. Then maybe where we will check something that was not checked before, it is the capabilities of the candidates to work from home and to have everything that is settled to allow him to work from home and so on and so forth. So that's from an employer point of view, but at least for me, it's maybe because I'm too old, I don't know, but I will keep the fact that meeting the people face to face is still important when you recruit somebody. And I know it will be tough if you do it remotely, and especially if you recruit somebody from abroad, but it will remain for me part of the game. From somebody who is the candidate, to choose a company, I think the best company, at least my view, will be the company offering both. So offices, nice offices, let's put it like this, and the possibility to work from home, because let's say it as it is a progress, an improvement for the life of everybody to be able to work from home, to have this liberty. Of course, your employer needs to trust you, and that's what you will have to prove during the recruitment phases. But I will vote or apply for companies offering me both and to have the flexibility, because it will allow me to manage better my life, personal life and professional life, I would say. So that's the criteria for the recruitment that potentially could change tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I think having somewhat of a hybrid approach of both office and remote really speaks to the point that Muriel made earlier about the one size fits all isn't going to work. That we need to be adaptive, and that we need to be flexible in some ways to kind of attract the candidates that are the right fit, and also to recognize that not everyone has the same resources to be able to work from home continually, and the office still might, when things calm down, might be the right place to go. Muriel, do you want to speak a little bit to that?
Well, yes, from a recruitment perspective, I've not shared recently with our recruitment team, so I'm going to share my personal perspective on it. And I am fully aligned with Eric. I don't think we will change a lot, since working from home or working from anywhere is already part of our DNA. So we are already having an interview with candidates about their area of expertise, but also around their professional skills. And at Adobe, we are mainly looking at people who are focused, so who are in position to challenge the statu quo, people who are leaders, even though they are individual contributors. They can share their vision and be collaborative. And so I mentioned focus, leader, and innovative. it's part of our DNA, I mentioned it. We want people who are creative and who are taking part of the broader team. And this is where, as mentioned earlier, where we may have a challenge working from home all the time, that since we are used to work in silos and alone, then we need to find ways or workarounds if we keep on working from home to work collectively and collaboratively. I mean, tools can be used for that. We use Teams, for example, at Adobe to create channel and keep the engagement of the people. And just like Eric is doing, we had also some daily or bi-weekly meetings, less now, to engage with the team, create some contests as well. We are creating some video films, for example, every month or every week at the beginning to keep the engagement and the fun in the team.
Yeah, and I think all of those, speaking to all those things, it's such a wonderful way of highlighting your unique value as an organization to this prospective workforce. And there was this really great tweet over the weekend, and it says, I'll quote here, "Everyone loves remote work until they realize 7 billion people will soon be competing for the job they have." Kind of really speaking to the fact that, you know, now we have these barriers that are geographical barriers are going away in some ways. And I was wondering, Fabienne, if you could speak a little bit to that, if how that's actually playing out with the data on LinkedIn, and how companies and organizations, maybe each of you could speak to that a little bit, how you are working to attract that 7 billion candidates, prospective candidates for your roles, and how you're kind of highlighting your unique values as an organization.
And then we wrap up, yeah.
Yeah, we are running close to the end of time here, so everyone could speak briefly on that.
Yes, I would briefly share two perspectives. One from the employer perspective, and the advice that we're used to give to companies with who we work is more than ever true, which is to communicate and to have a very strong vision and mission, and being able to properly articulate the purpose, because the social purpose more than ever will be important for candidates. From a candidate perspective, the advice that we're used to give is obviously to have an updated LinkedIn profile, but to be always consistent in the picture that you give of yourself, consistent in your topics of interest, consistent in your experience, and being aligned with the purpose that you like to follow.
Thank you. Natalia?
Yeah, so I think Total, we're in 130 countries. So the notion of I think having this global workforce is nothing new to us. I think one of the things we're seeing is we tend to ask our employees to grow by moving. So in my own personal career, I've had the opportunity to work in several countries, starting the US, Australia, Denmark, and now in France. And I think there is an openness that comes from this experience. And I think you mentioned something really true, that what we're experiencing today will open those barriers, and the workforce and the talent pool will completely shift. I will mention that tax laws probably need to shift as well. It is more complex than we think if you're working in a different country, but that's just a side note. But definitely, I think we have to open ourselves up to the possibility of having talent from unexpected sources. But it's a big takeaway, and something that Total has had an opportunity to do for several years, and so something we're mature in.
Thank you. And Eric, and then Muriel, and then we'll finish with Delphine, each very quickly. And thank you very much.
No, I would say the same thing. You know, Lenovo is in 160 countries with a huge diversity between the people. So for any people applying to Lenovo, and for any jobs at the end, make your own destiny, know where you want to go, know what you want to achieve for yourself, and just do it. Muriel, sorry.
I'm just trying to unmute myself. Thank you, Eric. So for me, as mentioned at the beginning, every situation is different. One size does not fit all. So we have an opportunity with this unprecedented situation to shape our future of work, whatever it is, work from home, work from the office, or work from anywhere. So it's now the time for all of us to shape that future of work.
Thank you. And Delphine, if you would like to close our session, such a huge topic and so many wonderful insights shared, so much ground we didn't have a chance to cover, but really appreciated all the wonderful takes from each of you.
Yes, I think, our economic recovery relies on digital. So we have to promote training in tech jobs, supporting the development of innovative startups, and highlighting role models more than ever to encourage vocation, and particularly among women who are still underrepresented in this area. So definitely parity cannot wait a century. We need to accelerate. We need to achieve parity faster. And this crisis has shown us that this is not, women are not weak, it's their condition which are weak. And so we need to now take advantage of the lesson of these difficult times to build a fairer world. And I think the greatest challenge will be to prevent the economic gender gap from closing is women's underrepresentation in emerging role like cloud computing, where there is only 12% professional are women, in data, in intelligence artificial, where the numbers are 15%, 20%. So we definitely need to address that deficiencies, workforce strategy, and we must ensure that we need to have women on board. I think this time of confinement or lockdown has shown that, for the very first few weeks, it was very difficult, and it was like, it was the end of the world and it was, of course, very, very difficult. This is a fact, but very little. We all got used to actually working from home, and so we were showing our capability of adapting ourselves. Like Darwin used to say, the species that will survive are not the strongest or the most intelligent one, but are the ones that are able to change and to adapt to change. Thank you so much for all of you to have been with us today. Fabienne, Arata, and I'm delighted to see you again, and Eric, very nice, Eric Lallier from Lenovo, to have you on board. Muriel, to also share with us the Adobe and the creativity that allow us to carry on, and Natalia, of course, from Total. Thank you so much, Natalie, for hosting very well this challenge, this live, this discussion. So I'd like to finish with giving you one. So our next live will be on May 26th at 8 p.m. Central Easter Time with Vanessa Munga. She's the Margaret Entrepreneur Africa 2020. She will be live on Ivory Coast Instagram to talk about the opportunities available to develop African women empowerment. It's going to be hosted by Frédéric Leninger. She's the editor-in-chief of Côte d'Ivoire. I also would like to give you the rendezvous on June the 17th at 6 p.m. CET with a masterclass by Total Africa with Salamata Bal, who is the manager director at Total in Malawi. And we have a great second edition of GFD Africa on July the 2nd. So book your diaries and look on our website, joingfd.com, for all the live. Thank you again to share with us tonight how the future of work will be. The future of work will be with women and wonderful men like Eric.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Thank
you so much. Have a great evening.
Bye. Bye.
Forum économique mondial de Davos, où la parité sera enfin atteinte dans le monde. Un siècle, 100 ans, 36 500 jours nous séparent de la parité dans le monde. Si on ne fait rien, si on ne trouve pas des leviers d'accélération, ni vous, ni moi, les jeunes, nous serons les témoins d'un monde juste. Alors, la parité n'attend pas.